Hello and welcome to the fifth video in my Part 3 Java MTA course. In this video we're going to be looking at string manipulation. So strings are an important aspect of the Java MTA. And so this is why we're going to do a Part 2 focusing on how we can manipulate a string data type. As in all my videos, I'm going to go through the key information that you must know for the exam and then test your knowledge on that information with a bunch of questions. So let's get started. So do bear in mind that this is the second video on strings, so it's a good idea to already have watched the first video, and that can be found on my playlist. And all of these methods that we talk about in the previous video and in this one are important for the MTA exam. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a string variable, so we know the data type is a string, and this variable has a bunch of white space or spaces in the front and in the back. So we're going to be talking about methods that we can then use to manipulate this data type. So the ones that we're going to be talking about are trim, substring, and format in this video. So again, to remove the spaces from the front and spaces from the back, we can use this text1.trim. So remember, it's important to know that in this one, we're actually using the object that we've created, and we're using the objects method, and the trim is the objects method. So the result of that, if we outputted text1, would be hello, and there would be no spaces at the front and no spaces at the back. Next one is substring. Again, this is a method from the object, and so if we did a substring of 3 to 4, we would get hello. So again, if we say there would probably be one white space here, one white space here, and one white space here. So it starts on the third, so it starts, so this number 3, this character, it's saying start the character after this value. So we're going to be starting on the 4th character. And again, the number 4 is saying do this character on the last one. So for this 3 and 4, this means that we're only going to get the 4th character, which is hello. Okay, so it's a little bit important that you understand where the start and where it finishes. So again, the first one is saying we're going to start cutting the string from the next character, and then the last one is saying we're going to include this last character into our substring. So again, 3 and 4 means that you're only going to collect the 4th character in your substring. And the last one, this is a formatting one. Again, it's important here to realize that we're not using the object here. We're using the string class. So the string class, we're saying string.format, and then what you have here is you have these percentages as placeholders. So the first value is the string that you're going to write in this method. So this is our string, and then this percentages is where we want to insert a value or insert a variable into our string. So again, this percentage S saying this must be a string. So we're doing some validation here. So it's saying the first value after that comma will go into the first percentage sign, and it must be string. The second value that we add in will go into the second percentage sign, and it must be a digit because it's a D or an integer. And the third percentage sign will hold the third value here, and they must match up. So if you have 3 percentage signs, the format is looking for 3 values to add in. Again, it's important to know that S is string, D is for number, like integer, and F is for a float. And then the result of printing this text1 out would result in this. So he's saying hello, which is our first value here. I am 17, which is our second value here. My height is 134.5, which is the third value. So that would output that. So hopefully you can see the difference between these two methods. The first two use the actual object that we've created and use the objects method. The third one, the format, uses the string class and using the method from that. So I think this is also a good opportunity for us to talk about what other kind of class methods we can use or that we must know for the MTA. So before we go into these key points, you need to know about wrapper classes. So if you're unaware about the difference between a int with lowercase and an integer with an uppercase, you need to know, you need to watch the wrapper class video in my playlist, and this will give you a better understanding. So in the MTA, you must know how to convert string or string values to their correct data type. So for example, here, number one, even though this is a string, you need to know how to convert that to an integer. You need to know how to convert that to a double, and you'll need to know how to convert that to a Boolean value. So in Java, you're allowed to use the same class method that we used in the previous, just a moment ago with that string dot format. So you can use the pass method for each of them. So to convert number one, so if you have a integer dot pass int and then add the value here, you can insert that into an integer wrapper class, and then that would be a 9 integer. Same with the double. If you use a double wrapper class here, you can use the double dot pass double method in the double class to change that number 2 into that number 4, and that will then be a double, not a string. And the last one is the same principle here. You need that Boolean wrapper class, and then you're using the Boolean dot pass Boolean method to change that string from the string data type to the Boolean data type. So importantly, you need to know about that class dot methods to convert, and then you'll also need to know what methods can you use directly with that string object and what methods do you need for that class object. So I've thrown a lot of information at you. Let's try and do some questions to try and cement this information. So what I would like you to do is pause the video and attempt to answer these questions. So hopefully you stopped the video. Let's go through some of the answers. So the first one, why would this code produce an error? Well, the one that you're trying to change from a string into an integer is a double value. So that is the cause of the error. So you are using the integer class method pass int to try and change this string into an integer, but it won't work. To get it to work, you would need to change the class wrapper from integer to double, and then you would need to change the method and the class from integer dot pass int to double dot pass double, and then that would create a functioning code. Number two, if you wanted to output the strings without the space, what method would you use? Well, you would use the object text2, and then you would use text2 dot trim method, and that would allow you to get rid of the spaces here and here. So the trim method would do that for you. Number three, if you wanted to just get Fred from this, again, we're going to be using that object here. So we're going to be text3 dot substring, and then we need to count it. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we start from 11 because then that is the one that we want. So we say substrings 11, and then we say 12, 13, 14, 15. So it'll be a substrings from 11 to 15. And that will allow us to get Fred. Use the format method to output it. Okay, so do remember, instead of text4, we want to get rid of this, and because it's a string, we're putting that percentage sign, and we're going to be percentage sign S here, and then again that percentage sign S here, and then we want to put a comma here, and then we want to put text4 first, and then text5. And remember that format method is attached to the string class. So we want to say string dot format, and then the first section is the text that we're trying to use, and we put the string placeholders where we want to put the text or our variables, and then we have the comma, and then we want to put the variables that we're going to assign to our placeholders. Okay, so we've got a few more questions here. So let's pause the video and see if you can answer them. So hopefully you've paused the video. Let's go through them. So what is the error on line 16? So we can see there is a red line here showing that there's an error here. And this is because we are not calling the class a method, because if we want to call the class method, we have to have it use a capital B. So if you see here with that double, that's a capital D, which allows us to call that method here. So we need to change this into capital B. Also, because we're assigning it to a Boolean wrapper class and not a Boolean primitive type, we need to change this from a lowercase b to a big B. This is important, so if you're unsure what a wrapper class is, you need to have a look at that video. So that is the error on line 6, because we're doing the lowercase here and the lowercase in our wrapper class. Number 2, if you outputted answer 1 on line 16, what would happen? So at the moment, if you changed it, if you corrected it, you would be able to print the false value here. So the text2 is a true false string, and so you would be able to assign it to a Boolean wrapper object. So that would be okay, and it would output false. Number 3, if you did answer 2 here and you outputted it, would that be okay? So again, we're trying to insert text2 here, and we're trying to create it as a double. Now, again, false is not a double, so that would create an exception. So there would be an error here. And number 4, if you outputted answer 3, would it be okay? Well, the text3 is an integer, so it should be okay. But the problem is we are using the wrong we're using the wrong class or object with our pass function here. So what we needed to do to make that correct and not cause an error would we need to change these two around. So it would be integer dot pass int, and then we could have inserted that text3 into that parameter, and then that would be fine. But to convert it, we can't use the string object to do it. We have to use that integer class. So hopefully you now know all of the methods that you need to pass the MTA for manipulating data. So if you can name all of the methods that we talked about today, as well as all of the methods that we talked about in the previous video, then you're on track for that. If you can explain how you can convert your string to an integer, double, or Boolean, that's brilliant, and you have a good idea about wrapper classes, that's fantastic. And then if you can also talk about not only the symbols that we talked about today for the format method, but any other symbols that you can use in that format method to insert values into that string value. So if you found this useful, please like the video. If you would like to know more about the other videos and the other knowledge about the MTA Java prep course, then subscribe. And if you have any information that you can give to the others or give to other learners regarding these questions, please add a comment below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.